I'm Christy.
I'm Scott.
I'm Jasmine. I'm Riker.
And we're living La Vida Moto.
Hi everyone. Welcome to my channel once again. I'm Christy. This is Living La Vida Moto. So some of you might know and some of you might not, but I've been traveling for 9 years now. Just over. It was 9 years in April with my family and my children. And over the years I've had a lot of people contact me and ask me a lot of questions. So today I wanted to do my favorite resources for traveling. I don't use them all the time, but I do use them regularly. So let's get on into that. So they're not really my resources that I use. I'll just give you a little bit of a rundown. So I travel with just my phone. I don't have a laptop. I used to have a laptop, but it was like a big giant Dell thing, and it was really heavy, and it worked for when we first started, because we started with suitcases, but then they got really cumbersome. But then we decided to downsize into backpacks. So now I just use a cell phone. I don't have a laptop. I don't have anything else. So, because I can use my phone as a computer mostly. They're not in any order, it's just as I've thought of them. I'm a little bit, I don't want to say scatterbrained, but I'm a little bit, I just throw things out there. Sorry, I have a little cat here. He's crawling all over me. So the first one would be mealsharing.com. Meal sharing is really cool. I've used it a lot while we've been traveling. So what you can do is you can go on, you can put in where you're going, and there's hosts. So you can either be a host or you can be a guest. We're usually guests because we're not usually in places where we can host people. You can go on, you can search where you're going, and you can find listings. And I usually try to find listings that either have kids or are families or are grandparents. Anyway, if it's with the kids. If it's just me on a solo trip, I don't care. But then you pay a small fee, usually between $5 and $10, like not more than what you would pay for a plate at a restaurant. And you go to their home and you share a meal with them. And it's really, really cool because, you know, especially when I'm solo traveling without my kids, I do sometimes like to go to a restaurant by myself, but it's quite often really nice to go and to be able to talk to people and have conversation and learn about the area. So a lot of these people in these areas have lived there for years, and you know, they can tell you things about the area that, you know, your guidebook might not have. That one's not an app, it's just a website, and it's called mealsharing.com again. I'll put the link in the description. And the next one is Kiwi.com, and they do have an app, and I use it a lot. So I found Kiwi kind of by mistake. So in last year, I was planning a trip to Europe, and I found some tickets on Skyscanner, and the cheapest tickets I found were through Kiwi. So I booked them. I've never had any problems before with bookings. So I get to England, everything's fine, and I had a great trip. And then coming home, oh my goodness. So coming home, I flew from London Stansted, and I went to Oslo, and I was supposed to fly from Oslo to JFK, and then self-transfer from JFK to LaGuardia. And the self-transfer was like $150. It wasn't working for me online to book a Uber or one of those shuttles or anything like that. And I was starting to kind of freak out, but I was like, okay, I'm not going to freak out. Anyway, get to Oslo, and there's a mix-up. So I get to passport control, and he asks me if I have a connecting flight, which I did. And so he told me to wait. Somebody came, they took me through this door and into this special area. And it was my gate where I should be, but he didn't stamp my passport. So, and I didn't get a boarding pass. So, and I asked a few people, and they were like, no, it's fine, it's normal. I'm like, okay. Anyway, go to board the plane. Your passport isn't stamped and you don't have a boarding pass. So I run back out to the entrance where you gotta check in and stuff like that, and I'm told that I've missed my flight. So I called Kiwi. Kiwi was great. So I had two mishaps. I had one in Oslo and I had another in Madrid because of drones flying overhead. They were amazing. They got me on other flights promptly. They covered my not the first night, but the second night. They found me a hotel with a shuttle, and they told me that anything that I bought for food would be reimbursed if I kept the receipts. So they have reimbursed me, and it was amazing. So I try and use them for anything that I book now. Basically, if I find something on Skyscanner, and Skyscanner always gives you, like when you do the search, it'll say like this company, this company, this company. And if Kiwi is within like the first four, I'll book it. Unless it's like $1,000 more, but it never is. So then my next resource is Skyscanner. And Skyscanner has an app, but they also have the website. I usually go to the website because I use Skyscanner.ca because it gives me in Canadian dollars. But you can just use the app as well. And one thing that I really, really like about Skyscanner is I'm not always sure where we're going to go next. And so it's really cool because I can put in where we are, and then as a destination, you can put everywhere, and it will give you the cheapest tickets in a list from cheapest to highest, and then you can decide where you want to go, which I really, really appreciate. So, and they have other features as well. You can put in whole month, and it will give you like the whole month and tell you which days are cheapest. Sometimes it doesn't always work. But yeah, so Skyscanner is another one. Can you stop playing with my hand, please? And then the next one is Booking.com, and they have an app as well. One little thing that I will tell you about Booking is they do have some private home rentals, kind of like Airbnb, but I've not had good success with those. So when we were in Mexico, I booked 3, and all 3 of them were a bomb. So the first one I booked was when we were first arriving. It was supposed to be an apartment, like a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment in a nice area. And so I booked it, and I got there, and we climbed up 4 flights of stairs, knocked on the door, and this little Mexican lady was there and had no idea what I was talking about. Like, she was there and she had like 4 or 5 kids peeking out the window. So I was like, oh no. So I emailed booking, and they took care of it, but I just wouldn't book a private rental after that. If it's a hotel, I'll book. But I really like booking.com because once you join, you get free nights of stay and things like that. And they really took care of me when I've had the issues with the private rentals. So, like, they told me, find a different hotel and we will reimburse you the difference. So, and they did. So that was really good. And so booking I really like for, and they work for just about everywhere in the world. I mean, there's some little tiny places where there isn't a hotel, but most places, even the small hotels, are on there. You really have to like read the reviews and keep in mind that the pictures might be 20 years old, but for cheaper places to rent or to stay in hotels, they're really good. The next one that I use quite frequently, especially if we're going somewhere for longer term. So, like, before we go somewhere longer term, I will use this one, or even if I'm just looking into a new country or city. So it's called numbio.com, and I'll put the link in the description as well. And basically, it does a comparison of 2 different cities. So you can either use where you are now or your home city. And so I usually use my home city because I know it really well, and I know kind of what, I know that this is the average, but I know that we can live here comfortably, you know, because of resources, because of different things. And so I'll go on Numbeo and I'll put in my home city and I'll put in where we are, and then it'll tell you that, for instance, I don't have it right now, but for instance, Puerto Plata is 52% cheaper cost of living than my home city. Or, you know, this one is only 20% cheaper. And so I try and go the higher percentage difference because it means my money will go farther. And it's just interesting to see, you know, places that you thought would be cheap really aren't. And Numbeo does not have an app, it's just a website. And then the next one is Locify. So you can either be a guide or guest. And so I was approached in 2017, I want to say, to be a guide. And I agreed. And so basically, as a guide, you'll get an email saying, we have 2 guests, they're from Belgium, they enjoy museums and hiking, or I don't know, and they are looking for a 2-hour tour. And so you say yes, and then they'll send you the info, like they're at this hotel, blah, blah, blah. And basically, you go and take them on a tour, and you get paid, I believe it's $10, it might be $20 an hour. But the minimum time is 2 hours. So, like, I had one couple, and I had them for the whole day, and it was a lot of fun. And so they cover your public transport and any meals or things that you stop for. So I took this Dutch couple out for the afternoon, and we stopped at Starbucks. They bought me a drink, and we had a good time. And it was kind of cool to connect with them and hear about their country and show them my city. And so it also works when you're traveling because you can go as a guest. So you can put in where you're going to and the things you're interested in, and then you you can find a guide for yourself that will take you out and show you around. The other one that I really suggest, and I don't have a specific one because they change regularly, but is to have a currency converter. So I use my currency converter like daily, and sometimes multiple times a day, because it's easier for me to be in a store and think, okay, this is, I don't know, 525 pesos. And instead of standing there and going, okay, so this much is this, and this much is this, I just put it in the currency converter and know how much it is in like Canadian currency or whatever currency you use at home. So a currency converter is really important. I think I missed one. Oh, I did. So the next one that I want to talk about is called Seesaw Class. It's an app, and I use it for our homeschooling. So basically, you can create a class, which could be all of your children. And once you do that, then you can add pictures, video, voice clips, like all kinds of stuff to either individual kids' portfolios or to the whole class. You can also do like a little diary on there, so you can put the day in, you can put what you did and stuff. And it's really good for me because I can go back and see how far they've come. And you know, especially my son, he's got some speech delays, and so it's really nice to go back and see, you know, like at the beginning of the year he could barely say a whole sentence, and now he's like doing this, or you know, or at the beginning of the year, listen to him read this really simple book, and then now, you know, 4 months later, he's reading this chapter book with ease, you know. So just that kind of thing. And then on that same, not the same app, but there's like a parent app. And so in the past, I've had, you know, like grandma download the parent app, and then we give her the code, and she can come in and she can see what the kids are doing, and we can kind of stay in contact that way. And I've also given the parent app and code to our teacher facilitator at the end of the year, so she can go in and see what the kids have done. And for me, it's really easy because I don't have to worry about packing around papers or packing books, or you know what I mean. So so if they did like a worksheet, I just take a picture of the worksheet, or I take a video of them explaining what they did on the worksheet. If they did art, I take a picture of it. If they created a really cool Lego creation, I take a picture of it. If they baked something, I'll take a video of it. Just things like that. Or if we went to the science center, or they did a science experiment, or whatever. So it just really works well that way. Another one that I use, not so much when I have the kids with me, but when I solo travel, which I try and do every year. I try and go on one solo trip every year for a week or two. This year it was for 3 weeks, and it was a little too much, I think. So one of the ones that I use when I solo travel is called homestay.com. It is not an app, only a website. And basically you put in where you want to go, and people are renting out a room in their house, and they'll provide breakfast or whatever. And it's usually quite cheap, like for a room with a double bed is like $20. And it's not any more than what a hostel is, but I get my own room, and I also get a local family or a local person who can show me around, and I don't have to worry about being in a hostel with, all the noise and confusion and that kind of stuff. And usually the houses that these places are in are on public transportation routes and are quite good. Another one that I've used and enjoyed is Workaway.info, and there's two. There's woof.org and Workaway.info, and Workaway is basically you stay for free for doing a few hours of work. The really important thing about Workaway and woofing is before you even get there. So you'll email the person and you negotiate. And one thing that I really, really suggest is nailing down everything before you get there. So what some of the hosts like to do, because they don't really understand the concept, they just know that it's free labor, is they want you to work from like sun up to sundown 7 days a week for free. And that's not what it is. So you really need to work out the details and make sure that they understand. So, and when I've gone with kids, I've always asked, what specific jobs will I be doing? What specific things will my children be doing? Because, like my daughter was 15, so what exactly is my 15-year-old going to be doing? What are you requiring of us? And occasionally I've offered, I will do this for my room and board, but I will pay for my kids, just to make it fair. The last one is for anybody who is doing van life or living in an RV or a converted bus or whatever kind of traveling vehicle you're living in. It's called boondockerswelcome.com. It is not an app, it is only a website. And basically, it's like couch surfers for people living in their vehicles. And so you can put in where you're going next, whether it be Las Vegas or wherever. It's mostly Canada and the US. I'm not sure about other places yet. And basically hosts sign up. I believe they sign up for free, and they put in their property. So, and most of these people live on acreages like just outside of town or whatever. And they will offer you, that you can stay in their yard or whatever. When we lived in our bus, we stayed on a guy's farm for 3 days, and he actually let us park in he called it his barn, but it was like this big giant covered shed that our bus fit in. So we had shade, we had power because there was power in there was a hose in there, we had water. It was quite lush, and we weren't paying for it. But I will tell you that Boondockers Welcome does require, I think it's a $30 a year fee, but once you've stayed with somebody once, it's pretty much paid for, because you can't really find a campground for less than $30. And Workaway is very similar. They have I believe it's a $30 yearly fee, but once you've stayed somewhere once, because you can't really get a hostel for, you could get a hostel for less than $30 a night. But, I mean, if you stay there for a week, then it would be okay. One thing I did want to say about Workaway is most of these places are out in the country. So if you're looking to go explore downtown of the city, it's probably not a good idea. But most of them are out in the country. Some of them are schools and stuff, and they might be in the city, but the majority of them are out in the country. So I did want to say that. And most of the boondockers are in the country as well. So you should remember that. Like if you're planning on, going to see downtown, I don't know, pick a city, and the person on Boondockers Welcome that you're staying with is, 90 miles from downtown, might not be the best idea. So yeah, those are my resources that I use quite regular. And one other that I've been on for years and years and years, and I didn't put it in because I just assumed that everybody knows about it, is Couchsurfing. It's kind of morphed over the years. So I joined Couchsurfing. There was another group called, what was it called? Global Freeloaders. And so I was on that, and then we all kind of moved over to Couchsurfing in 2004, I think, maybe 2005. So I've been a member since 2005, and I've been a host all those years. And so no matter where we are, we host. We haven't hosted in this house just because I don't really want to go down the mountain and get anybody, and it's quite a hike up here. So I haven't hosted here, but I did host in our house down the hill, and I've hosted all over. Anyway, so in my profile, I'm blatantly honest. Like, we have kids. If you're the person who needs to sleep in and have quiet all the time, we are not the place for you. We do a lot of adventures, so if you just want to hang around and lounge around, we are not the place for you. Things like that. So as a surfer, though, which I have done, especially as a single woman, I try to find women hosts only, but it's really, really difficult to find women hosts. So I try to find hosts whose whole profile is finished. They have pictures, they have lots of reviews. I stayed with a guy kind of last minute in London, and he gave me his WhatsApp. We talked a bit before I got there, which was really helpful. He seemed really nice, and he had lots of reviews, and a lot of women reviews that were good, which was good. And I got there, and it was absolutely fabulous. So, but I have had where I've messaged somebody, and actually I put out you can put out a message to everybody in the area to see, and he messaged me and said, if you haven't found a place, you're welcome to stay here. So that was cool. And but I have in the past messaged people and said, this is what I'm doing, blah, blah, blah. And I've gotten a message back saying, basically, they think it's a hookup site. So you just really need to be prepared for that, some people think it's a dating site, like it's Tinder for travelers, I guess. And it's really not. That's not what it was intended for, but it's kind of morphed into that. So you kind of have to weed through the Tinder thinkers for the actual Couchsurfing thinkers. But I've met some really, really amazing people through Couchsurfing. A guy that we hosted in 2012 here in the Dominican Republic when we were in Mexico City. He was in Mexico City. He couldn't host us because he lived in a tiny little apartment, but he took us around, showed us the parks, showed us where to get groceries and how to use the metro and just all these things. So it was really, really amazing. And I've stayed in contact with a lot of the people that we've hosted over the years. On my trip in January, I stayed with one of two girls that stayed with us in Edmonton, in Toulouse, France. And then I stayed with Sven and Michael, my favorite couch surfers from Berlin, Germany. And that was a lot of fun. It was so much fun. So it's really cool to meet people that you've hosted and then stay with them when you go that way. And we actually hosted a lady here in the Dominican. She had been teaching in Haiti, and so she stayed with us for, I think it was a week. And then when we took the bus from Canada, Western Canada, all the way to Miami, we came across Canada and came down into the States from Detroit, and she was in Detroit. Well, we had a 4 or 5 hour stopover in Detroit. She came, picked us up in a van, put all our stuff in the van, drove us around, found a McDonald's with a play place so the kids could play. Her and I visited. She drove us back to the bus station, and we went on our way. So it was really cool to have these contacts through Couchsurfing. And so those are my favorite resources that I use for travel, and I hope you find them helpful. Bye.